This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast. Nailed it!
Welcome in, everyone. Episode 7 of the Hawk's Eye View. I am your co-host, Andrew Barber, with my other co-host here, Drew Shipley. And we are having a wonderful night. How are you feeling tonight, Drew?
I'm feeling good, Andrew. Extra long weekend. I took tomorrow off. Got a friend back from Iowa, one of my Army buddies, flying in tomorrow. Going to a Nationals game tomorrow night. Going to the Commanders game on Sunday, barring a tropical storm that is actually scheduled to strike us dead on. So we're not tropical cyclone, they're calling it. So I don't know what the difference between a tropical storm and a hurricane and a cyclone is, but I know it's aimed right at us, scheduled for most of the all day Saturday into Sunday morning. So we'll see if we actually get that football game in. But looking forward to having him come visit, and should be a good weekend.
The only cyclone I know is some sort of a red bird that doesn't look that intimidating, so I wouldn't be too worried about it. But anyways, welcome on in. This is our opening drive segment, and there's big news out of the Iowa Swarm NIL Collective. A couple of nuggets dropped today. The first one, and probably the biggest one, being that they're now extended to every single sport across the University of Iowa. Originally, they were just supporting football, men's and women's basketball, but now their reach extends to every single sport at the University of Iowa, and I think that's just great news. If you contribute more like $100 a month or a $1,000 one-time donation, you can direct wherever your funds go. So, and I think the minimum amount that you can contribute, which is what I do, is $20 per month. So, a good thing for Iowa athletes, and that general fund will just kind of go to. I'm not sure what the distribution will look like on that. I think more to come on what that distribution looks like as far as more just like the general fund. And then also, they announced the Iowa NIL store, which is a really neat idea. And all athletes basically will have officially licensed Iowa gear that has their name, image, and likeness on it. So best example I could think of is like a Caitlin Clark jersey will be sold at the Iowa NIL store, and I'm sure that'll be like a popular item. So you'll have like jerseys with players' names and that other kind of cool shirts and stuff that are kind of, and the proceeds go, again, not all the proceeds, but a high percentage go directly to all the athletes at the NIL store. So I think that's some good stuff. And it's clear that the athletic director and Brad Heinrichs, who runs the Swarm, are working together, which is positive development for Iowa athletics.
I have a love-hate relationship, Andrew, with NIL in general. And it's not because we pay athletes, not because schools are paying athletes. I think that's great. I think they're actually getting paid what they're worth. But where it's coming from, I have a problem with. Like, luckily for me, I like drinking beer. So I will get Swarm, and I will support Iowa NIL. Not everybody feels that way, right? College football is a multi-billion-dollar business a year. So for me to think that these universities can't pay the athletes themselves in a more structured environment, maybe more closer to a free agency, or not free agency. What am I looking for? A salary cap type of model, right? Where you can't just pay everybody $5 million and just be the best because you have the most money. You know what I mean? So I like that we're paying the athletes. I hate that us as fans have to support yet another endeavor when these universities are still making billions of dollars on football alone. That's just
Yeah, and
that's just my feeling on it.
yeah, yeah, maybe not quite billions, right? But certainly millions or hundreds of millions.
Sure.
If you're in the Big Ten, you're just making 100 million a year off of a TV contract alone. So for football, but yeah, I'm with you in that. Unfortunately, there's some rules, some laws that got to change to make what you're saying about salary cap a reality, which I think we'll get there. But there's a lot that has to change for us to get there. So for now, unfortunately, it's on the fans, and I'm not saying I'm a massive fan of it, but it's just the reality of the situation is that if Iowa fans don't step up for NIL, the results on the field may not be what you expect or court, or may not be what you want if you don't step up for that. So that's my shameless plug. So it sounds like you and I are maybe in different places on that, and that's okay. But
No, I wouldn't say that, Andrew. Like, I mean, I still support Swarm. Like I said, like I'll buy beer, I'll buy merch because I'm an Iowa Hawkeye fan, and I want our guys to get, I want Iowa to get the athletes that we want, right, to be competitive. So like
right.
whatever it takes mentality. It's just where the money is coming from bothers me because these universities are walking with all the money still made from them anyway on the fields. So no, I
Yeah,
respect Brad. I expect Swarm
I
or
I think
expect Swarm. It's just it's tough. It's tough.
yeah. I just thought it was really neat how Beth Getz was just all over this news today, and it was just a clear and obvious thing because that wasn't the case under Gary Barta. That like the Swarm NIL was meeting a lot of resistance from Gary Barta, and it's complete 180, night and day difference. So like we have an athletic director who is forward thinking, and I just thought that was refreshing to see is that we have someone in that position who's forward thinking. But maybe we should move forward and talk about the matter at hand. We're about 7 minutes in here, so first down, I think it's time to talk Iowa Penn State. And I think the number one thing that we have to talk about this week is how big of a factor do you think Iowa's injuries to some key players will be in this week's game?
So first off, Luke Lachey, most likely season-ending injury, had successful surgery earlier this week, right? We still have Eric All, and by and large, just as good of a player. Is it better that we have two of those guys? Yes, 100%. Iowa's offense in the last 6-7 years has been most successful with those 2-3 tight end sets, quite frankly. So it's also harder to run the football when you don't have 2 tight end sets either. So it's kind of telling of how to run the football. Caleb Johnson out, Jazz Patterson out. I'm not as concerned with the running game portion of it as far as production is concerned. So I mean, yeah, you're taking away an extra tight end, but I think the run production will be there or not, regardless, based on the offensive line and their growth in these last 3 weeks. So if you see something like last week where we finally, pushed our will onto the Western Michigan defensive front there in the second half, we're going to be in this ball game. We're going to need to run the football because these are ball hawks out there, guys. 5 interceptions so far this season, and these guys are going to play on Sundays. Johnny Dixon, Daquan Hardy, Cam Miller each have 1 interception on the season already. 7 turnovers total for Penn State. So taking care of the football and establishing the run, which, I mean, we could say that about every football game, Andrew, right? But I think most importantly in this football game, to upset a top 10 team in Happy Valley, whiteout, take care of the football and run it successfully. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and I think I'm with you on the running back portion. I'm not as concerned. I mean, Caleb Johnson and Jazz Patterson are very talented players when they're fully healthy, but we saw enough flashes out of the true freshman guys, Kamari Moulton and Terrell Washington Jr., to feel comfortable about them when we know what we have in LaShawn Williams. I mean, I don't think he's going for 145 yards this week or anything crazy like that. Maybe he does. Maybe he surprises all of us, and he does. But at least we have a solid player there and a starter, and guys who flashed a little bit of potential. So a couple of true freshman running backs there. I think the Luke Lachey loss is a big loss because um, not only we have Eric All, who's a talented player for sure, but he was kind of the main guy that Cade was looking to in the passing situations for the big plays, and it was really clear that they had an awesome rapport with each other, and there was just kind of a connection there with those two that they were like always on the same page, and so that's a brutal injury for Luke Lachey, and we won't see him for the rest of the year, and I guess the only positive is that we'll probably see him next year because we weren't going to if he had remained healthy all season.
I mean,
He was gone.
I mean, it was a devastating injury, right? So you can play this on both sides. How many of those devastating injuries can you take in a football career, whether it's college or NFL? You know, does he come back to college and go up with his draft stock, or does he go to the draft, you know, being promised by a team that, you know, you're a second, third round guy, just as you are. You don't want to take any more of those hits and risk another knee injury of any sort because, you know, those add up. You know, we've seen, you know, prior tight ends for Iowa. Tony Moeaki is the first one that comes to mind for me, and knee injuries. Like, he just never got back over that hump after he left Iowa. Pretty successful with Kansas City, but that first one in KC, like, just took him out of the game, really.
Sure, yeah, and I'll use like a more recent example for tight ends, not at Iowa, but Luke Musgrave, current tight end for the Packers, suffered a devastating injury 2 years ago at Oregon State, did come back and raised his draft stock to where he was a third round pick for Green Bay, I believe. But anyways, he's now a starting tight end, and like his career has to play out still. But I can see it both ways, right? So I think he'll be back unless he does get that promise that you're kind of talking about. So.
I mean, it could be devil's advocate of my own argument too, right? Remember Jake Butt from Michigan playing in that bowl game? Consensus first round pick until he blew up his knee. He didn't come back and went to the NFL. And is he even in the NFL now? I have no idea.
No, he works for the Big Ten Network as an analyst.
That's right. So the guy's 26 years old, and he's on the sidelines, man. So like, never could recover from something like that. So I don't know. There's not a right answer, Andrew. I don't, black and white.
Thankfully we're not the ones to make the decision. So, yeah. All right. My next point here on second down here was I'm wondering if you and I are seeing the same thing, the same parallels between this 2023 version of Iowa Penn State and the 2009 version. I'll break it down for you like this because I was going into Happy Valley, a whiteout, the fourth game of the season, fourth weekend in September, and Penn State's heavily favored, top 10 ranked, with revenge on their mind. If you remember 2009, 2008 happened. Iowa ruined Penn State's national championship aspirations late in 2008 with the Daniel Murray walk-off field goal, the Sean Green, kind of his Heisman moment, right? In that game, scoring a couple touchdowns, Ricky Stanzi leading a final drive. So we're heading to Happy Valley on Saturday night in a whiteout with quarterback wearing number 12, two freshman running backs, just like 2009, and some studs on the defensive line, Deontay Craig, Joe Evans, and Graves, just to name a few. Adrian Claiborne, Christian Ballard, Carl Klug, right? So I'm sensing a lot of parallels. It's also going to be 58 and rainy. So are you getting the same 2009 vibes that I'm getting this week?
You know what? And not just raining. That same storm that I'm telling you about, this tropical cyclone, Pennsylvania is just north of here. So you're talking about a night game. It's going to be hitting right in the middle of that football game. It's not just going to be rainy. It's going to be sheets. Like, I don't know if they actually play the game at the right time. Might be suspended or something. I have vibes of winning the football game. But like I don't see it being blowout either way. I don't see Drew Aller just doing whatever he wants in the passing game. I don't. The true test is going to be Cooper DeJean. This is what we have him for, is for these conference defining games. So yeah, I think they're gonna mud it up in the trenches, the defensive line. I predicted Aaron Graves to be the Big Ten defensive player of the week last week with 1.5 sacks. I think there's going to be a lot of sacks on both sides of the line of scrimmage coming up on Saturday night. So it's not going to be a lopsided game regardless. It's going to be a one possession game.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point. I mean, overall, for the most part, since Kirk Ferentz got to Iowa since 2000, I mean, a lot of these games between Iowa and Penn State, with maybe 2 or 3 exceptions, are decided by one score. And moreover, Kirk Ferentz is 10-7 against Penn State since 2000, 10-8 if you count 1999, which I guess you have to throw it in there because it is part of Kirk Ferentz's tenure, but it was his first year, and he didn't really have a lot of talent on the roster, so to speak. So he's 10-8 against Penn State, which I think is pretty good if we think about where Penn State's been as a program as well. So is this Iowa's best rivalry that's not an actual trophy game?
Oh man. So I actually commented on this debate on a KXNO show that was on earlier today. I think you might be alluding to my comment on Twitter that
I am.
I think it might be Michigan State. Michigan State. In the Kirk Ferentz era since 1999, we are 8-8 against Michigan State. 8 of those games were decided by one possession or less. And, Big Ten championship game, 7 gets 6, Marvin McNutt, walk-off winner. So there's a handful of winners and losers in that rivalry in the last 25 years, just as much as Penn State. And arguably even mattered more, right? 7 gets 6. Wasn't that the 2009 season? Ricky Stanzi? Wasn't that the Orange Bowl season? So, I mean, those games and those moments were like Rose Bowl or national championship or bust, really. So the Penn State, knocking them off in 2008 was great. 2009 Claiborne, awesome. Never forget that. I know where I was. I was at the Bettendorf Buffalo Wild Wings 2009. I just got home from Iraq in my first tour with Army National Guard with a couple of my friends from Newton. Just sitting there and watch that block punt. The whole game before that was kind of just a shit show, really. It wasn't going one way or another, just a struggle to move the ball. And then Claiborne blocked the punt and returned it for a touchdown, and it was excitement and buzz the rest of the game. So I'm going to lean Michigan State, but just based on our Orange Bowl appearance in 2009 and not making the title game in 15.
Yeah. There are a lot of memorable moments, and I think you've got a really strong point, but you've got the 08-09, but before that, you've got the 2004 6-4 game between Iowa and Penn State. That's extremely memorable. You have I believe it was 2016 where Saquon Barkley came in to Iowa City, and Trace McSorley had the walk-off touchdown to Juwan Johnson just over a defender's head. So you have that back and forth.
That was on 4th down too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 4th and goal. 4th and goal.
Mm.
Right. And I saw a clip today of Akram Wadley running in that touchdown. I was about 10 rows up on the 10-yard line where Akram Wadley ran that in. back in 2016. So I was going absolutely ballistic in the stands, thinking, this is it. We've got it. Someone pointed out today, what if Akram Wadley slides down at like the 1 yard line to kind of kill time, because Iowa was only down 2 points. So they only needed 3. They didn't even really need 6. They could have kind of, done one of those fall short of the goal line things and
Right.
tried to run some clock. But anyways, the past is the past. And then
Well,
2021 though, and this is what I'm bringing up, is 2021 top 5 matchup. We all know how 2021 went after this, but at the time, that was probably the most electric that I've ever heard Kinnick Stadium be. I was not there, but everybody who was there says that was the loudest I've ever heard it. It was special in the atmosphere. You had this kind of tingling feeling, and I felt it just sitting at home watching that game on TV. And I know the Big Ten championship in 2015 means a lot, but to me, like that in 2021 Iowa Penn State are kind of the two biggest moments that stand out to me in my Iowa football fandom.
100%. And I was there in 2021. Did have season tickets about on the 5 yard line on the opposite side of the Nico Reganey touchdown. But yeah, it was electric when he scored there. Only matched or exceeded by the Tavon Smith touchdown in the fourth quarter of the Big Ten championship game in 2015. I mean, it was a snooze fest, really. Iowa couldn't do anything on offense. And, first play of what was it? Was it the first play of fourth quarter? Third and like 12, big bomb to Tavon Smith. He does the dab, and the rest is unfortunately history. But that was the loudest I've ever heard a place. Of course, it's a dome in Indianapolis, but the IOWA, which we probably outnumbered Michigan State 70-30, I would say safely. Were you there, Andrew?
No, I was not in town for the Big Ten championship. It's one of the things I regret, but maybe this year I will be finding my way to Indy. If the Hawks make it there, I'll be maybe finding my way there. So
there you go.
Yeah. So I don't think we really answered what the best rivalry is. But I think if you're gonna pick two teams, it is those two, for
100%,
sure.
100%.
So, with that being said, we're about halfway through. It's time to hear from our excellent sponsor, Revelton Distillery.
At Revelton Distilling Company, everyone has become a part of the Revelton family. From the Taylors and their daughter who helped perfect their award-winning gins, to the team who installed Lucy, our 33-foot-tall custom-made still, right down to the local farms that provide our coveted corn, and even the cows on those farms who consume our mash byproduct. Want to see the farm to flask come to life? Now you can tour Lucy and find out where we take Iowa's harvest and transform it into our finest spirits. Choose between a 45-minute tour or find out even more by scheduling a VIP behind-the-scenes tour to get the taste of the full Revelton experience. You can visit them at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, or find all of Revelton's award-winning spirits at any local grocery or spirits retailer.
Welcome back into the Hawk's Eye View. We are here on third down. And Drew, it's trivia time. Can you tell me you probably can. Can you tell me how many times Iowa has started 4-0 under Kirk Ferentz?
Oh man, you know what? That's a great question. 4-0. I believe this would be the 5th season.
This would be the 7th time in the Kirk Ferentz era. And let me name you the other 6. 2003, 2006, 2009, 2015, 2019, 2021.
Wow.
For the most part, those are January bowl seasons, New Year's Day bowl type seasons for Iowa. So with that being said, how does a win over Penn State change your expectations for the season? Does your expectation instantly become 12-0?
Oh my God, yeah, yes, yeah, it would 100%. Who is going to stop us in the West? Who?
Wisconsin?
Like that has to be number one, right? Left on the
Mm-hmm.
schedule, that has to be number one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I noticed a trend of all those seasons that you mentioned of Kirk starting 4-0. Most of those were odd years, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's 2023. Okay, cool. So with that being said, and again with the weather and all that stuff, like I think this sets up really well for the Hawkeyes to just beat them up in the trenches and get, I don't know, first to 13, maybe.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking.
I think this is the scenario that the Hawkeyes needed, was something weather. Not that we couldn't beat them on a level playing field, perfect weather, whatnot. Like in our perfect day, Cade McNamara, goes off 60%, 65% passing, couple touchdowns, defensive block for, field goal block, something. Everything goes right. We can beat them on a perfect field. But I think the weather considerations is going to be huge, and the Hawkeyes keeping this close.
Yeah, I agree as well. And then I'll answer my own question then. Yeah, if Iowa does instantly become, it's 12-0 or bust in my mind if they're able to pull off this Penn State win. And I think it does a lot in the national perception as well. Because right now the line depends on where you look. Iowa is a 14.5 or 15-point underdog, which I think is way too far. I'm, I do lay down money sometimes, but and I'm not going to give gambling advice here. You can go check out.
That's for the Ball Don't Lie podcast, family of Three Beards Media.
Yeah, but if I were to give some advice, I think Iowa's chances in that spread scenario. I'll just throw that out there. But yeah. Anyways, I think the expectation does become 12-0, Big Ten championship level, and I wonder, and I'm just coming off the cuff with this. Do you think there's potential that there could be a rematch of this matchup in Indy? Because I know that maybe we've questioned a little bit Penn State's opponents before we hopped on here, but they have looked impressive at times. They have looked like they could challenge Michigan. I think Michigan's the real threat, but Ohio State, maybe not the most impressive. Are we seeing a Big Ten championship preview this weekend, possibly?
I'm going to say no, Andrew, and here's why. Because if the Hawkeyes are going to win this football game, I feel like Penn State's going to split between Ohio State and Michigan. That gives them 2 losses. When's the last time that a Big Ten East team made it to the championship with 2 conference losses? Never. That's never happened. So that it might come down to the big game like it typically does on the last Saturday in November, to go to Indy between Ohio State and Michigan again. So I'm basing this on the fact that Hawkeyes upset Penn State. But if Penn State does pull off the win in Happy Valley, as they probably should, then yeah, it can be, because there's gonna be a multiple loss team in the West going to Indy if we lose, and it's gonna be us still. But yes, this game hinges on everything. I don't know. What do you think?
Gotcha. Yeah. I'm kind of in the camp that, a loss to Iowa here puts immense pressure on them, and I see a split because I believe I haven't looked at Penn State's schedule too deep, but I think they get either Michigan or Ohio State at home, and then one of those is on the road. Maybe I should probably look it up here since I've got it right in front of me here.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I think there's a chance, but it's not a great one. I don't think. Yeah, I think that James Franklin's done a good job, right, to sort of create a team that we feel like can compete. So this would be a big statement. Give me 1 second, pulling up the Penn State schedule here. All right. They get wow. I misspoke. Oh yeah, they're at Ohio State and then they get Michigan at home in November. So um I don't know. I think it's big to get Michigan at home. So um
Yeah,
all right.
I
Enough
see.
about Penn. Go ahead.
Either way, I see a split on their case, and if we beat them, I feel like they're out. Eventually, down the line, they will lose out of the Big Ten East.
Yeah, they would need, some help from a team like some other East team like Maryland or
I
you
mean,
know.
look out now. What Maryland and Rutgers both 3-0.
Yeah, maybe Rutgers is the second toughest game on the schedule for the Hawks.
Ooh, maybe.
Who knows? Who knows? We'll see what they look like against Michigan this weekend before we project that. If they
Yeah.
keep it close with Michigan somehow, then maybe we can say that. So, um, lastly, fourth down here, how valuable do you think it is to have Cade McNamara and Eric All? Because these guys went into Happy Valley in a similar scenario in a 2021 wideout as part of Michigan, and they won. The game-winning touchdown was Cade McNamara to Eric All, Michigan over Penn State in 2021 in a fairly similar scenario to what both of them are facing right now. So how valuable do you think it is to have two guys that have kind of been there before that are leaders of this year's Iowa team?
Yeah, their experience can't be discounted, Andrew. They've won the Big Ten before. They played in the college football playoff before. So under the lights, 110,000 whiteout Penn State is not going to shake Cade McNamara in the least. Again, this is a weather situation. I cannot stress this enough, Andrew. This is a weather situation that maybe 3 or 4 defining passes, 3 or 4 game defining passes will win this football game or lose it. 3 or 4. It's not going to be a 20 of 35 passing kind of day. It's going to be 11 of 16, 150 and a touchdown. That might be enough on either side, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think it comes down to turnovers could play a key part as well. And Iowa right now is dead even. They've committed 3 turnovers and they've forced 3 turnovers. They do have the 1 pick six, but Penn State has done nothing but force turnovers and they have not committed any.
No, not one. +7.
Do we think that regression to the mean is coming? I mean, we've mentioned the weather. It's tougher to hang on to the ball in a rainy environment. And we know Iowa's penchant for forcing turnovers. We know Phil Parker's going to have that defense ready. Do we think that turnovers are kind of the key factor for Iowa?
I mean, the Hawkeyes are number 1 in interceptions the last 15 years, right? So, yes, turnover is going to be big either side. Again, either side. I don't know. It is going to be a slop fest, Andrew, and it might come down to a lucky bounce of a ball going out the back of the end zone with Penn State going in, and then it turns into a touchback, which is the stupidest rule in football history. We saw it, I think, last Thursday night in NFL Thursday night football. Someone fumbling the ball into the end zone, take it off the board. Shit's gonna get weird, Andrew. Shit's gonna get weird. There's gonna be a safety. There's gonna be a blocked punt or field goal. I don't know. There's not going to be a lot of points scored, I don't think. I don't know what the total is, but I will give gambling advice. You take the under and you take it now before everybody figures out a tropical frickin' cyclone's coming.
Yeah, I think that's decent advice. And here's my bold take that I'm going to share with you. I think this is Cooper DeJean has multiple touchdowns in this ball game.
Multiple? Ooh. Okay.
And when I say multiple, that leaves it open. But if you want me to get specific, I will. Pick 6 and a punt return touchdown.
That is just as bold as 2.5 sacks from Aaron Graves last week. But the thing is that's possible. I don't know. I mean, we get closer to game time. You're going to be watching that weather forecast for sure. But I mean, if that happens, Andrew, if that happens, that's a Hawkeye win. There's no doubt in my mind. If that scenario happens, we do not lose. There's no way.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the same thing when I can't remember who it was. One year we were playing in Wisconsin and the game was delayed and we ran back like a pick six immediately. I think it was 2017. Might have been like a Josh Jackson pick six and Iowa was up 7-0 instantly and then did nothing for the rest of the game. But hopefully it's not one of those scenarios. But like you said, I think, rainy, tropical cyclone, whatever it is, right? Guys are going to be slipping and sliding, and Cooper DeJean just doesn't. He's kind of just superhuman, right? So it could be one of those things where he just gets his hands on a ball, and if the ball is in his hands, he's making plays. And we haven't seen it. We haven't seen a punt return touchdown in a while from Iowa. We haven't seen. I mean, we saw a pick six from Castro in week 2, but I think Cooper DeJean is getting his, and this is kind of going to be his moment. So
those pants are going to stay clean too, Andrew. Wearing black pants on Saturday night.
We should have let off the show with this because I love the uniform combo that Iowa is rolling out into. I like a lot of things, kind of the theatrics maybe behind Saturday night's game because Iowa will be on CBS for the first time since 1997.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. 1997.
So, 1997 was that a Sun Bowl against Arizona State?
100%. Yeah, your Iowa history.
Pull that out.
You know your Iowa history, Drew. Before that, the last regular season game was 1986, Iowa, Michigan.
Oh.
So, yeah. So Iowa on CBS on Saturday night, and we're getting Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson and Jenny Dell. We're getting the A-plus crew, right, for that CBS can provide for that ball game. But I like to switch up the white shirts, the black helmets, the black pants with the gold stripe. I think it's just fans have kind of been clamoring for it for a little bit, and they gave in and they did it. And I hope that actually just becomes the away uniform, to be honest. I don't know. I just want it to be the away uniform. I just want the black pants every time we go on the road.
Did you hear what Kirk Ferentz said last night to Gary Dolphin on Hawk Talk? He's like, "Yeah, that's not really my strong suit. We leave that up to the equipment managers, and then the advisory committee of the football team is like, well, yeah, if this is going to fire up the players, I'm all for it. But I'm no expert, no fashion expert," he said.
Yeah, we'll have to get some tracking if they start wearing the black pants on a regular basis about the win-losses and what that does for winning and losing. I don't think there's any correlation, but if Iowa wins this game, I think they are obligated to stick with it until they lose.
Hard to argue. I mean,
yeah. So, with that being said, we will go ahead and hear from Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage, and we'll come back with our final cut.
Are you in the market for a new house and unsure of the mortgage process? Want to know that you have someone looking out for you? Kyle Lehman from Wintrust Mortgage is a down-to-earth, knowledgeable lender who can be there for you in your corner. He can work with you in any of the 50 states and is just what you need to expand your home search. Kyle will work with you through the entire process with little to no work from you. Take the worry of the mortgage process out of the equation so that you can focus on looking for your dream home. Contact Kyle at www.wintrust.com/Kyle-Lehman or call him at 515-473-0546.
Welcome back in. It is our final cut segment, and Drew, I'll give you the first crack here.
I've been alluding to it this entire episode, Andrew. It's going to be a low-scoring game, and it's going to be 10-7 Hawks. It's against what my preseason prediction was, but you got to contribute all the factors. You got to include all the factors into this football game, and weather is one of them. Let's face it. Watch it like get pushed off to the far east coast and it don't hit because I'm not a weatherman, but 10-7 Hawks. That's where I'm going with.
I think that would be a spectacular outcome. I obviously have to have a few more points in my prediction, given that I just said Cooper DeJean's going to have 2 touchdowns. I am going to go ahead and say, again, weather permitting, I know that there's going to be rain. I'm not sure if the tropical cyclone's going to hit. So my prediction may sound way off if the tropical cyclone hits. I'm also going against the grain because I just kind of have a feel, just kind of a vibe. I mentioned the parallels with 2009. I'm getting that feeling here. And I think once again, it's going to be a defensive player that steps up to steal the show on a Saturday night in Happy Valley. Penn State is 8-6 in these all stadium whiteout games. So they're not, overwhelmingly dominant in this scenario. And I was going in there with some things on their mind and a lot of experience. I'm going to go ahead and say Iowa 27, Penn State 16.
Oh, that's an ass whooping.
And I think it's a bit of a whooping. And I think it's kind of shocking to a lot of people. And like I said, 2 defensive touchdowns, right, are baked into that 27. So I'm really only looking at the offense for 13 points, which I think is totally possible given some of the playmakers that we have. So maybe I'm a little too optimistic and I'll look like a fool, but I'm going against my 11-1 and I'm taking out my 1. So if that tells you where I'm at for Iowa this season, that's it.
We would go from +6 to +8 on the drive to 325 so we can crawl out of Brian Ferentz's ass for one more week. Right? I just had to throw that in there. I just had to throw it in there. I'm actually kind of surprised you didn't include it today.
If I would have had a little bit better planning, then maybe I would have. But watch out for AI videos on the internet, folks. I'll just say that.
Woo!
It's don't get fooled. Don't get fooled by AI. A lot of people did. But with that being said, any final thoughts before we sign off for the night?
It's a season-defining game, Andrew, no matter how you slice it, right? Iowa wins, everything is on the table. Iowa loses, it's the season that we've expected so far, right? Did we expect to go into Happy Valley under the lights, white out, and go and win? I think your season prediction you did, and I said no. Is that correct? Is that how we panned that out in the preseason?
No, we both said no.
We both said they would lose. Yeah, everything's on the table if they win, and it would be what we expected if we lose. So really, it's a no-lose mentality type of situation here. If Cade McNamara can just move just a little bit in that slippery conditions, things can happen. Defenders fall down. Ours don't. Right? So
right.
Let's see what happens. I'm going to be really disappointed if it's not like just a pouring down mud-ridden football game based on the last 43 minutes or so. But if not, whatever. Let's go. Hawks win, man. Hawks win.
All right. I'm ready. We're all stoked up for game time. Meet us back here on Saturday night. Who knows what we'll be feeling late on Saturday night. It will be a late one, mind you, especially if there's weather delays involved.
I hope I have power.
Yeah. I may be riding solo. Just hopefully my co-host is still doing all right with the tropical cyclone out his way. But yeah, we'll be back here immediately after the game, probably about 10 to 15 minutes after the game for our instant reaction podcast. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for Revelton Distillery and Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. go listen to us at Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you want to listen to us. We appreciate all of you. Have a great night and go Hawks.
Hawks by a million. Let's go.